The Miami Marathon was just a few weeks ago, and it was a challenge to say the least. And the interesting thing is that Carrie and I have so much incredible experience in everything from ultra marathons to the Ironman distance to a 300-mile triathlon across the state of Florida, that, to be quite frank, we might take a marathon for granted at this point. So we went to bed the night before, we laid out our gear, we thought everything was fine. I slept at Carrie's house that night because she lives relatively close to the start. And our plan was to just walk to the start in the race chair. That way it would make it a lot easier. We didn't have to switch chairs. We get downstairs with just about a half an hour before the start. And keep in mind, it's very critical for Carrie and I to start first, because that way, when other runners pass us, they're coming up behind us and around us. They are able to visually see what's in front of them. When we start in the back, we then have to come through people they can't see. So I'm like a lunatic screaming at the top of my lungs, excuse me, coming through. We learned our lesson at the New York City Marathon. And after that, we bought a bell. And it's like a horn, and we squeeze the horn. So if we need to pass them from behind, but it becomes more difficult. So we were very focused on getting to the start early because they always set us off early. We put Carrie in the chair and we just take one step and the tire goes flat. We get Carrie out of the race chair. At her building, there is actually a tire pump, an electric one. We do that. It inflates, it immediately deflates. We spend about an hour, we're now a half hour after the race start, trying to fix the chair. We take the tire off, we change the tube, we fill it up. We think it's fine. We walk a quarter mile. At this point, the tube pops again. We return to Carrie's house and we looked at each other and we said, should we just do it in the regular chair? And we both sort of giggled. We're like, yeah, let's go. Clarita, who is Carrie's aide, confidant, sister at her side through everything. She's like, you two are crazy. We're like, Clarita, we got this. She's like, okay, go ahead. Now, keep in mind that the race chair has specific arms that are here. So I stand here and I push. The regular chair, the arms are a little bit lower than my hips. So I'm now crunched over and pushing. It takes us about 25 minutes to get to the race start. It probably should have taken 15, but we're in the regular chair. There is no turn radius. There are no shock absorbers. It has nothing on it that could be considered aerodynamic, as opposed to this beautiful Hoyt racing chair that we have that pivots and turns and swivels. We get to the start, they wave us in, come on, come through, and we start at almost the full back of this 20,000 person race. We start running, we've got a lot of adrenaline. The two of us are sort of giggling at ourselves that we can't believe we're actually doing this. But we realize within 3 or 4 steps that we have to pivot and swivel through every single person. And it's not easy. We're running and we're stopping. We're running and we're stopping, because with the other chair, I can move around people. With this chair, I can't do it. There's no turn radius. So we're already putting the brakes on. She's shifting forward, shifting back, shifting forward, shifting back. My quads, my hamstrings are like, what is happening right now? Every minute, forward, back, forward, back. Within the first mile, you get to the MacArthur Causeway. And for people who may not be familiar with that, it's a relatively tall climb, but long and slow. We make it to the top of MacArthur, which was really one of the most difficult things. I had to be completely hunched over and at the same time in squat position to get this chair with Carrie in it up the causeway. And I was huffing and puffing. And we get to the top. And again, we're weaving through all these people. And we get to the top. And people start to pick up the pace because they're running now down the causeway. and we're in a huge cluster of people and someone trips and falls. And that happens all the time in races. You see it every single time. But unfortunately, they tripped and they fell and they sort of came right between us where my arms are here holding the bottom of the chair. And they knock me loose of Carrie. I go this way, Carrie goes that way. The chair takes off, bumps into another person who thankfully really stopped Carrie from going further down the entire causeway. And Carrie tumbles, I get right up, we go to Carrie. The people around us are gracious and kind and concerned and stop and help Carrie get back in the chair, make sure I'm okay. The person that she fell into was really just more concerned about Carrie and I than herself. The beautiful person who I hope one day will see this and can look us up and find us. And everybody there helped us and we got in the chair. And I took a moment and I looked at Carrie. I examined her whole body to make sure she didn't have road rash or anything like that. Just a little cut on the top of her ear, little scrape on the top of her ear. And I had some road rash on my one side, but we looked at each other and I said, are we good? And she just gave me a thumbs up. Carrie, does anything hurt? I touched certain places to see what her reaction would be. Everything. Carrie, are you okay? We're good. Let's go. Let's go. The clock is ticking. All right, let's go. So now we're going down. And the only thing I can do, because this wheelchair doesn't have the ability, also in the racing wheelchair, Carrie's sort of lying back and flat, where in this chair, she's right here. So what I can do in the other wheelchair is lift the wheel up a little bit when we go down so we can fly down and get a lot of speed. And that's also Carrie's favorite part. But in a regular wheelchair, you can't do that. I had to go down into full squat position and pull back as hard as I could, almost on my heels like this, to come all the way down the hill. We make it. It was horrible, but we make it much, doing everything we can to put the brakes on. And we get to the bottom and we start running and we're doing well. All of a sudden, about mile 7, the left side of the wheelchair just falls off. So we must have lost some screws or something in the fall, but it was tight enough to hold for about 7-8 miles. That comes off. We stop. Again, everybody around us, lovely. People help us. We get it back on. We go 2 miles. It comes off again. 2 miles. It comes off again. Now what happens is it's back in and we learn how to sort of jam it back in. But unfortunately now, the chair is leaning to the right. It's almost like if the alignment in your car is off. And no matter what you do, the car is going to lean this way. That's what's happening to the chair. So now what I have to do is with every step, I've got Carrie kind of go like this to reshift her weight. And what I have to do is push the chair all the way, pull as hard as I can to the left to keep it going. And now we're at mile about 11 out of 26.2. And we have to take the entire race to push this way and to also shift our bodies so it can be back and off the front left wheel, but that are also at the same time, our body weight shifting to the left because the chair just wants to pull to the right. And we tried to run, but if you ran, the chair would just be turning to the right. So we basically ended up walking from about mile 12 on. We just realized we were going to have to walk. We would walk, the wheel would fall off. We would put it back in. It would fall off. We would put it back in. But every even little incline, just the sheer strength that it took to push the chair to the left, to keep your body to the left, was really a magnificent effort on both parts. We really both had to struggle with it. We talked, Carrie said to me, do you want to, she heard me, like, I would be like, oh, like trying to pull it as hard as I could to the left. Do you want to stop? We're this far in, Carrie, we're going. And we just made the best of it. We talked to people along the way. We saw some people who were racing, who, were struggling, and they would look at us and we're like, come on, you can do it. Let's go. Just walk with us. Come on, walk with us. And they would be like, okay, I can do this then. You guys are doing that. I got you. and they would get up, and some people walked with us and finished with us, and we crossed that finish line, and it was, you know, our slowest time ever by literally 2 hours, but maybe one of the sweetest at the same time.